I'm Diana Falzone for FoxNews.com. Thanks to shows like Downton Abbey, Americans have become fascinated with the world of Britain's elite and their massive estates. In the new book, The Housekeeper's Tale, author Tessa Bowes digs into history behind the scenes at these picturesque palaces and the surprisingly dramatic lives of the staff who run them. She joins us in studio. Welcome, Tessa.
Hi.
Hi. So how did you go into researching this book? Because it goes quite in depth.
This was very hard. There are very, very few documents out there because servants' lives weren't considered recording or keeping. There are lots of kind of accounts books, laundry lists, but nothing that you can really hang a book around. And I wanted to find stories that brought women to life, not just the sort of general, you know, what their day involved or what their uniform was. There are no books out there that go in depth into their lives, their dramatic stories.
And they are dramatic stories. You chose 6 different housekeepers. How did you choose these 6 particular women?
I wanted to move forward in time with each woman and each house to show, I suppose, the changing fortunes for servants, but also for the aristocracy, the kind of rise and fall, the fate of the English country house, that after eventually 2 world wars, it couldn't be sustained because they couldn't find the servants to run them. No one wanted to work in service anymore. So the book is a kind of arc when it starts at the beginning in the 1830s, when you had absolutely no rights and very few opportunities as a working woman. And it ends in the 1970s with the growing, you know, women's lib movement, National Health Service, education. There were many more opportunities. And I kind of thought I was a feminist when I started out, but having looked in detail at the lives of these women and how hard it was for them, I'm really a feminist now, having done the research.
Well, when you look back at the people who were the pioneers and who really pilgrims for women's rights, and you see their strife and their struggle, you have a greater appreciation. But let's start with one of the women, Sarah Wells, who is actually the mother of famed author H.G. Wells.
Yes.
So tell me a little bit about her.
Well, by complete fluke, her diaries have been kept. Very few housekeepers kept diaries. It was the kind of thing that would probably cost you your job if it was discovered.
Oh, of course.
Of course, you had to be the soul of discretion. She was a compulsive diary writer. Every year of her life, almost, from her teenage days as a lady's maid onwards, have been recorded. And because her youngest son is H.G. Wells, the very famous Edwardian novelist, her diaries were thought to be worth preserving, not out of any kind of interest in themselves, but because of any kind of glancing reference to her famous son. I, however, read them with a very different focus.
What
I
was your
wanted
focus?
to know what it was like to be a Victorian housekeeper stuck in the basement of a large country house for the last 20 years of the 19th century. And I discovered that it was relentlessly tough. This is a woman in the autumn of her life, really. She's in her 60s. She's in very poor health. Her teeth are falling out. She's got rheumatism. She's going gradually deafer and deafer. And she has no choice but to take this job. Her husband is completely feckless. He can't seem to earn a living. She's got 3 teenage sons who cannot come with her.
And obviously the elite family that she's working for, they don't care. And you and I were talking before we started about Downton Abbey and how a lot of the time the help and the family mingle amongst each other. But what did they get wrong on that show?
What did they get wrong?
Like so many things.
Well, maybe there were some houses, and I did discover some, where there was a kind of a sort of more of a paternalistic relationship between upstairs and downstairs. They looked after them. They would take them on kind of outings to concerts and make sure they got to go to church.
Okay.
But they didn't keep popping up in each other's quarters quite so regularly as on Downton and kind of sharing their innermost thoughts with each other. Not at all.
Not at all. And also there was a saucy woman who had a scandalous past, some would say, Ellen Penketh.
Yes. Ellen Penketh, more often than not, the women I looked at are in the archives because something went badly wrong for them, because there was some kind of scandal. So with Ellen, I found in the extraordinary archives for Erdig Hall, which is a very big, beautiful National Trust house in Wales, newspaper clippings about this court case she was accused of stealing a large amount of money. She was cook housekeeper for a very insecure mistress, both of similar age, both in their 30s. Ellen was very beautiful, much more beautiful than her mistress. I think there was some jealousy.
Oh.
It went to court not before Ellen had spent 3 months in prison, horrible prison.
So she was imprisoned because she was
suspected of stealing this large amount of money.
But was she proven to steal it, or we can't give that away?
Well, I think I will give that away. It was 1907, and suddenly the mood was changing. People were not just sticking up for the aristocracy anymore. She was let off, and I think that was a real sign of the times.
Right.
Guilty or not, I still couldn't make my mind up at the end. There was a kind of grey area. I did want her to be innocent, though. I knew I was on her side by the end of this story.
Very interesting. And last but not least, because there is so much to cover here, what is the status of housekeepers today?
In the UK, well, I suppose you have two very different sorts of housekeepers. You have those who look after the individuals of high net worth living in London, who are usually foreign and usually treat their servants extremely badly. Ooh. Then there are those working for the large English country house, which is having a bit of a renaissance at the moment. They are adapting to survive.
Okay.
Tourism, corporate events, and I look at one at the very end of the book, Hokum Hall in Norfolk, a massive Palladian mansion. And Nikki, who is housekeeper, in her 30s, little discreet tattoos on her hand, biker boots. She
Sounds
is
about right for
honoured
this generation.
to work for this family. She has an extremely good relationship. But her work is as much curatorial. She's looking after and conserving these amazing treasures. She's not just down on her knees with a scrubbing brush.
Right. She's almost like the historian in so many ways, like you said, like the curator of the property.
It's a more prestigious job today, definitely, and far better paid as well.
Wow, we've made a lot of advancements in so many categories when it comes to housekeepers, and like you said, the women behind the job. So thank you for joining us today and imparting all your knowledge.
Thank you.
What a book. The book is called The Housekeeper's Tale, available now. Thank you again for being here. For FoxNews.com, I'm Diana Falzone.